because you don't see Saturn with a chunk taken out of it.
Maybe that's the
you
lens
only see the moon that have a chunk like that, and the only other planet that I know of that you see a chunk taken out of it like that would be Venus. Because it's on the inside planet. Saturn and Jupiter, they're all outside planets.
Right. And this,
Earth,
friends,
so
is what it's like when you stop by the weather department at any moment.
Right.
These are the kinds of conversations that you will stumble into.
I need to go outside and see it so I can be sure what I'm looking at.
Let's just send you up in the chopper so you can investigate properly. How about
I'd
that?
love to. That would be great.
Yeah, go up into the KCRA observatory and get back to us. Thank you, Jerry.
All right.
Okay.
What our analysis will show is that the KCRA morning news anchors observed 2 planets via their live news helicopter feed, specifically the planet Venus eclipsing the planet Nibiru. After seeing our findings, you, the viewer, can then decide for yourself. Is NBC News the first mainstream television network to unwillingly air a Nibiru report? Then we'll present our analysis of this new report, and finally we'll close with KCRA's response to our request for basic information about the broadcast. What is important to remember about this live pre-dawn KCRA report is that it was aired live. What you see is a real-time feed from a news helicopter after takeoff in the early morning, well before sunrise. To illustrate the key points, let's review a series of video frames taken from this news report. Here you see that the cameraman is imaging an object in the sky and it is fairly round. Looking closer at the object of interest, we see that the camera is zoomed to such a wide setting that it's difficult for the camera to give us accurate details. However, with a color shift analysis, we do see patterns that are consistent with natural objects. It is important to note that when camera operators spot something of interest, they'll focus in on it, which is what we see here, now that the cameraman has zoomed in to a medium setting. Then, with a closer look at the object of interest, we see a deformation at the 2 o'clock position, especially when we study just the outline. Moving on, in this image, we see that the cameraman is fully zoomed in to a very tight setting. At this point, the question is, are we seeing a lens aberration? With this in mind, remember that these images are being captured from a moving helicopter. So what we do see is natural movement, absent any evidence of a lens aberration. Further evidence of this is the crossfade from the camera feed to the production studio at KCRA. Here we can still see this image in the crossfade. So what exactly are we looking at? 2 planets. The first is Venus, in which we see the nighttime side of the planet as it eclipses the planet Nibiru, in which we see the daylight side of that planet. To help you understand how we drew this conclusion, let's begin with this planetary alignment for January 14, 2014, as depicted by the Solar System Scope program. On that day, the moon is behind Earth, so we know that it is impossible to say that one of these 2 objects could be the moon. Likewise, given the alignment of Mercury and its relative size, we can rule out that planet as well. Which brings us to Venus. On this day, it was in an inferior conjunction directly between the Earth and the Sun. This is why Venus appears as a black disk as it eclipses Nibiru. To help put this in perspective, let's use this simple illustration of the phases of Venus. Here we see it on January 14, 2014. Because the Sun is directly behind it, what is presented to us on Earth is the night side of Venus. Conversely, were Venus in a superior conjunction on the opposite side of the Sun, we would see its full day side. This brings us to the question, where exactly was Venus in relationship to the Sun during this pre-dawn live helicopter video feed aired on January 14, 2014? Here we see that precise alignment with the Starry Night program. Please note the white line running across the bottom third of the screen. This represents the horizon as it was seen from Sacramento on that day. And here you see that the sun was below the horizon at that time. However, Venus, which is directly above the sun that day, was above the horizon. So now let's assemble the various alignments we have into a complete picture. The key to this is that Venus was directly in front of Earth in an inferior conjunction. As you can see by the illustration here, what we saw of Venus was its night side. To further illustrate the point, let's use this photograph of Venus transiting the sun. It is a black dot, and the commercial jet also captured in this photograph is equally black. This is consistent with the sun being below the horizon and Venus being directly above it and the horizon as well. Ergo, Venus was accurately videographed in this live pre-dawn KCRA news broadcast. This brings us to the final question of the analysis. Was Venus eclipsing Nibiru as our analysis shows? In this KCRA broadcast, two planets were imaged. To understand why one is dark and one is bright, let's quickly review what we learned about the phases of Venus, which applies to any other planet in our solar system. When the planet is directly in front of the sun, before us, we see its night side. And when it is directly behind our sun, before us, we see its day side. This was the case on January 14, 2014, where Venus is directly in front of the sun and Nibiru is directly behind it. But is it really Nibiru? And if it is, would it be possible to find corroborating images? On both accounts, yes. When we look at the field of view from Sacramento when that live camera feed was broadcast, the constellation Aquila was above and to the left of the sun, Venus, and Nibiru. This is consistent with what we have reported in previous videos during this same relative span of time. Here we see an image by Richard Bolerup taken on December 13, 2013 in support of his own naked eye observation, which places Nibiru in the same region of the sky as a published observation by the 00 Skyview team on October 21, 2013. Note where the constellation Aquila appears in this region of the sky. Here we have another image of Nibiru captured by the Turrialba webcam on January 2013, 2014, which places Nibiru in the same region of the sky as Richard Bolerup's observation on December 13, 2013. And here, approximately, is where it appears when we add it to the previous two observations. Once again, note its relationship to the constellation Aquila. Here we have a subsequent image in support of another naked eye observation of Nibiru by Richard Bolerup on January 8, 2014, again in the same region of the sky. We therefore concluded that we have evidence of a clear pattern. But to make this even more complete, we also offer another image of Nibiru captured by the Turrialba webcam on February 12, 2014, which again places Nibiru in the same region of the sky. Taken all together, what we have are reliable observations of Nibiru by three different sources in the same region of the sky. And once again, we see the constellation Aquila, which is also what we saw earlier in our analysis of the KCRA observation report. So, do the dots connect? Here we see an approximate pre-dawn position for Nibiru as it was observed by the live feed from the KCRA news helicopter. Therefore, what we now have are reliable observations from 4 different sources for the same exact object, the planet Nibiru. With this in mind, let's look at that KCRA broadcast once again, so that you, the viewer, can compare our findings with what you now observe in this live broadcast recording.
We are back.
Stargazing.
It is a celestial rock.
Awakening.
In space, if you will. Dirk, Dirk, what is it? We're all like, it's a planet? Is it the moon? What is
Actually,
it?
we've been searching, trying to find you in the newsroom because we know you know.
Ask Dirk, what is it?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, Is it the moon? I don't know. You'd have to back up. I'd have to be outside to really see, but that looks like a point of light. And if it's close to the sun, where the sun's coming up, then more than likely that's... I can't believe that we could see Venus that close.
But it is a planet, right? Because it's not twinkling, or is that a myth?
No, I would say that that's a planet, yeah, but
It's Saturn.
It's hard.
Okay, Tamara wants in on this
Confirmed
one. She's been Googling.
No, that can't be Saturn unless
It can't
there's an
be.
eclipse going on. No, because you don't see Saturn with a chunk taken out of it.
Maybe that's the
You only
lens on.
see the moon that have a chunk like that, and the only other planet that I know of that you see a chunk taken out of it like that would be Venus. Because it's on the inside planet. Saturn and Jupiter, they're all outside planets. From
And this,
Earth,
friends,
so
is
you
what
wouldn't
it's
see
like
that.
when you stop by the weather department at any moment.
Right.
These are the kinds of conversations that
But
you will stumble into.
I need to go outside and see it so I
Let's
can be
just
sure
send you
what
up
I'm
in a
looking
chopper so you can investigate properly.
at.
How
Oh,
about
I'd
that?
love to. That would be
Agreed.
great.
Yeah, go up into the
Ship 'em
KCRA
up.
Observatory and get back to us. Thank you, Dirk.
All right.
Okay.
In order to produce the most accurate analysis, I contacted Jim Stimson, the Assistant News Director for KCRA Sacramento, for additional information on February 2015. In a follow-up email that day, I confirmed my request in writing as follows. I will be producing a video from my YouTube channel regarding this KCRA broadcast, and am requesting the following information from your station. 1. Exact date, time, and location of the video capture. We need this for plotting an accurate star chart. 2. Equipment used. Of particular importance is the lens. 3. Names of the news anchors that appear at the end of the clip. And 4. A 1080p MPEG video file, if possible, of the broadcast for detailed examination. I then received the following answer from Mr. Stimson on February 25, 2015. Marshall, thank you for your interest in our video. As a matter of policy, we only share our resources, news gathering information, and editorial content on a very limited basis with certain other news organizations. I am following up to let you know that your project is not something we are interested in being a part of. Jim Stimson, Assistant News Director, KCRA. For the record, we never asked KCRA to be a part of any project. We only asked them for information about one of their own live broadcasts. While Mr. Stimson showed an unwillingness to provide any information whatsoever, the one thing that stands out is this. KCRA denies nothing. This concludes our report.
WTF? What the fuck does W...
Hello brothers and sisters, I have something I'd like to bring to your awareness about ISON. I, just like many others, have been seeking connections to make sense of our past, to work out the reality of the present, and forecasting into the future. I will start off this rabbit hole with a short video of an ancient artifact.
This is the so-called pyramid with the shining eye. Even Jim used it for his new bestseller. So it means it is a very, very famous but also very, very old symbol. And this is the only existing really pyramid with the eye. It has exactly 13 steps, like the pyramid on the $1. The strange thing with this one and other artifacts found in Ecuador, that if you put black light on it, the eye shines really very, very strong. And the natural color is kind of light green and gray. And the most impressing for me was that on the bottom of the pyramid, you have here in gold inlays the Orion constellation and an unknown writing. This unknown writing we found on stones all over the world, in Ecuador, in Colombia, in Illinois, in Gloucester, France, in Calabria, Italy, in Turkmenistan, in Malta, and Rex Gilroy has some pictures on his website, and I found out that some of the stones he shows with unknown writing presents the same writing. That means there must have existed a global civilization long time ago. And there was only one man able to translate this language, Professor Kurt Schildmann. He was the president of the German Linguistic Association. He spoke and wrote more than 40 languages perfect, and he could translate this writing, and he called it pre-Sanskrit because it's older than the oldest writing. And the translation of these 4 letters on the bottom of the pyramid was, "The Son of the Creator comes."
Hopefully when he said that, something clicked. Is it not strange that people who have the job of naming celestial bodies also seem to have had esoteric information, such as the phrase on the bottom of the pyramid that we only know of as the Illuminati symbol? The comet was named as if it is announcing its own identity, I-Son. This leads me to think that this comet is important to these people, so let's continue and see where it takes us. Let's take a closer look at the comet itself to find any abnormalities. I will now cut to a clip from BP Earthwatch, who does a brilliant analysis of the comet itself.
Guys, this image was the last one that we got from Hubble, and it was on the video a few weeks ago. And they did an overlay of 3 images to get this coloration that you see in here. They used blue, red, and I think the black and white filter, took the shots and overlaid them, and we came out and they said it was a smooth image. And the video that I did where we were watching the meeting, if you remember, of the different astronomers and scientists at the IC meeting, the Comet I-Sun meeting, and one of the guys at the end said that the jets were irregular. They were not, they were at a distinct angle from the sun. Well, and again, I was complaining that if they were getting shots every 15 minutes of Hubble, from Hubble, why aren't we getting more? Well, what I wanted to do was find the images that they used to make this composite. Now, when they overlaid this, they smoothed a lot of edges out. Was that the purpose? To make it look like one object, guys? Is that what they're doing? I want to dig a little deeper here. Now, I found the 3 images that they used to make this picture, and now I think I know why. I'm going to pull this over. This is the black and white one. This is from the red filter and the green filter here. I'm going to pull this black and white up, guys. Just hang in there a minute to see what we got. Now, without the overlay and what they've added in, you can see what's inside this comet, or inside this coma haze here. You have 3 objects. And this is not an object behind these 2. You see how this cloud is irregular. This will not be happening. Now, this is what's called the Hubble Web Viewer, and I'm going to put it up after I load the video. You can't put links in the description until after the video is loaded, so sometimes it takes about 10 minutes to get that information under it. But this is called the I-Sun Web Viewer, or Web Image Viewer, and you notice the numbers here. As you move your cursor around, it gives you where you're at. You see that? Now, it also has what's called invert, darker, and lighter. You notice how they've got it real bright. Now, this is the released image here, and at this sun, this star appears to be having a solar flare or coronal mass ejection out the side. But let's try to get it. Let's just darken this thing a couple times. And again, I'm going to link this. You notice that it's starting to clear up. It was overexposed, the one that was released. Here's eye sign. Here's your coronal mass ejection. That's what's inside that coma. Now, that looks like a comet. This I don't know, but again, it's part of this cloud. We'll pull it up. You can also zoom, and it will zoom very big. One more time. Now let's go to light, and let's blur it out the way that it was when you go to the page. As we lighten it up, it's just increasing your exposure time, basically. Watch what happens to it. You still see that oblong shape inside that coma? There's about the way we get it. Now we're going to go back dark. Right there. Now remember that one scientist said some of the jets are not pointed right. Is that what we're looking at here, guys? Something's just not right. I would say this was some kind of marker or something if it was not for this cloud. Pull it up. Let's look at it close. This is the real image of what's inside that cloud. I'm going to go darker. You tell me. I don't know. Heads up.
So I hope we can agree this comet, if indeed it is a comet at all, has 3 parts which seem to be moving in formation, for the lack of a better word. Now we will take a look at its orbit and see if there is any other interesting abnormalities that let us make more sense of it all. As you can see, Ison is on a highly elliptical orbit around our Sun. When I saw this, it reminded me of a binary star system, which has its orbit of its 2 stars as follows. At the same time, it clicked that this orbital pattern had been used before in a calendar. I put it to you that it was not the ancients that were the ones who were wrong with their concept of time, but it was our concept of time that has been manipulated by the Gregorian calendar from the Church. Given that if all this is true, in its passing some large-scale events are going to happen, let's take a look and see if there is any national exercises being carried out in the same time frame as it is passing, since the US government seems to have this remarkable ability to stage exercises on the exact events that are taking place, such as the bomb exercise in Boston and the hijacking exercise on 9/11.
Possible emergency FEMA Region 3 alert. FEMA Region 3 consists of Washington, D.C., Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and West Virginia. This alert was sent to us by Senator Sheldon R. Songstad, retired, of South Dakota State. Here is what the Senator's National Preparedness Research turned up. FEMA purchase orders for over $14.2 million for MREs and heater meals to be delivered to Region 3 by October 1st. FEMA purchase orders for 2 million pouches of emergency water to be delivered to FEMA Region 3 by October 1st. FEMA purchase orders for $13.6 million for MREs and heater meals to be delivered to Austin by October 1st. 9-week training course for UN peacekeepers in CONUS to learn urban warfare. They're learning urban warfare, and they need to learn English and U.S. weapons systems. we're having foreign soldiers learn our U.S. weapons systems. This has been going on since the 4th week of July for 386,000 troops to be completed by October 1st. 2,800 MRAPs must be delivered to DHS by October 1st. No leave will be allowed for U.S. military from September 28th through November 5th. NORCOM yearly training for civil unrest is to be suspended until September 27th to be performed in northeast coastal areas. Date for release of QE3 report is to be moved to October 16th. All DHS agents must qualify with sidearm, shotgun, and AR-15 by September 28th. No mention of yearly less lethal qualification. The sporadic testing of GPS and communication satellites is coordinated for the very first time ever with a testing date of September 29th. POTUS mandates to FEMA and DHS concerning support for metropolitan communities dealing with the extreme climate change must be complete by October 1st. These mandates were issued during the last 3 weeks. Over 300 school systems in the U.S. have determined their 3-day kits for each school and 3-day kits for each student to take with them. All deliveries are scheduled for the month of September. All National Guard units will complete riot control and disaster assistance training during this year's annual 2-week training. All units must have their training complete by September 30th. Daily testing of emergency broadcast system to begin on September 25th and run through October 2nd. Eastern-based Coast Guard units to perform massive group training, usually performed in the Gulf, in the Virginia and Delaware areas. This is a 10-day training mission to begin September 26th.
So as they all qualify in the 10 days training, there is less than 2 weeks for the passing of ISON. It might be